Here we are now, gathered here on this bold, blessed, and beautiful Sunday. We are now starting a new chapter VIII. Can anyone tell me what that means? Well, the V stands for 5, and then the 3 added onto the 5. What does that make? Class? Anyone? Anyone? Bueller? 8. We're on chapter 8. Here we go. Last week, I remember, this is the highlight of my week. Last week, I was astounded at the end of the chapter, the way there was some infidelity going on. Here we are, chapter 8, SOS. Our wireless code signals summoning assistance in extreme distress, used especially by ships at sea. The letters are arbitrarily chosen as being easy to translate and distinguish. The signal was recommended at the Radio Telegraph Conference in 1906 and officially adopted at the Radio Telegraph Convention in 1908. The Oxford English Dictionary. Billy Reston glides into fame. Paying no attention to the equipment which Ned Davison over the last few weeks has been setting up in the living room, including, though not limited to, 3 monitors, 2 3/4-inch decks, a VHS machine, a Quadra Mac, 2 zip drives, and an Epson color printer, an old PC, at least 6 radio transmitters and receivers, heavy spools of electrical cord, video cable, 1 16mm Army Flex, 1 16mm Bolex, Minitola Super 8, as well as additional flashlights, flares, rope, fishing line, anything from braided decorin with up to 40 pounds multi-strand steel. Boxes of extra batteries, assorted tools, compasses, switches to the odd polarities in the house, and broken megaphone, not to mention surrounding shelves. Already loaded with sample jars, graphs, books, and even an old microphone. Instead, Reston concentrates all his energies on the radios, monitors, Holloway as he makes inway through the Great Hall. Exploration 4 is underway and will mark the team's second attempt to reach the bottom of the staircase. We hear you fine, Billy, Holloway replies in the wash of white noise. Reston tries to improve the signal. This time, Holloway's voice comes a little clearer. We're continuing down. We'll try you again in 15 minutes. Over and out. The obvious choice would have been to structure the segment around Holloway's journey, but clearly nothing about Ned Davison is obvious. He keeps his camera trained on Billy, who serves now as the expedition's base commander. In grainy 7298, probably pushed to T-stop, Ned Davison captures this crippled man, expertly maneuvering his wheelchair from radio to tape recorder to computer, his attention never wavering from the team's progress. Goddamn fat Mars bar. What's going on here? Here we go. Hang on a second. Now look at this. Look at this. Where you go? Get the. Here we are. Here we go now. Here we go now. By concentrating, Reston at the beginning of Expedition 4, Ned Davison provides a perfect counterpoint to the murky world Holloway navigates, confining us to the comforts of a well-lit home given our varied imaginations, a chance to fill the adjacent darkness with questions and demons. It also further increases our identification with Ned Davison, who, like us, wants nothing more than to penetrate firsthand the mystery of that place. Other directors might have intercut shots of the base camp or command post, with Holloway's tapes, but Davison refuses to view Exploration 4 in any other way except from Reston's vantage point. As Fraziel Clary writes, before personally permitting us the sight of such species of Cimmerian dark, Davison wants us to experience, like he already has, the sequence dedicated solely to the much more revealing details of waiting. Nagbulb Pederls, however, goes one step further than Clary, passing over questions concerning the structure of anticipation in favor of a slightly different, but perhaps more acute analysis of Davison's strategy. First and foremost, the restricted perspective subtly and somewhat cunningly allows Davison to materialize his own feelings in Reston, a man with fearsome intelligence and energy, but who is nonetheless tragically, I might add, physically handicapped. Not by chance does Davison shoot Reston's wheelchair in the photographic idiom of a prism. Spokes for bars, seat like a cell, glimmering brakes resembling some kind of lock. Thus, in the manner of such images, the Davison represent for us his own increasing frustration. As predicted by the first night, Holloway and the team start to lose radio contact. Davison reacts by focusing on a family of copper verdigris coffee cups, taking up residence on the floor like settlers on the range, while nearby a pile of sunflower seed shells raising out of a bowl like a volcano born on some unseen plate in the Pacific. In the background, the ever-present hiss of the radios continues to fill the room like some high, untouched, unable wind. Considering the grand way these moments are photographed, it almost appears as if Davison is trying through even the most quotidian objects and events to invoke for us some sense of Holloway's epic progress, that or participate in it, perhaps even challenge it. Time passes. There are long conversations. There are long silences. Sometimes Davison and Tom play Go. Sometimes one reads aloud to Daisy, while the other assists Chad with some role-playing game on the family computer. Periodically, Tom goes outside to smoke a joint of marijuana, while his brother jots down notes in some now-lost journal. Karen keeps clear the living room, entering only once to retrieve the coffee cups and empty the bowl of sunflower seed shells. When Davison's camera finds her, she is usually on the phone in the kitchen, the TV volume on high, whispering to her mother, closing the door. But even as the days lose themselves in night and find themselves again, come dawn, only to drag on yet one more hours of lightness passage, Billy Reston remains vigilant. As Davison shows us, he never loses focus, rarely leaves his point, and constantly monitors the radios, never forgetting the peril Holloway and the team are in. Janice Whitmore was right when she noted another extraordinary quality. Aside from the natural force of this chapter, his exemplary intelligence and the constant show of concern for those participating in Exploration 4. What I'm still most struck by is Reston's matter-of-fact treatment of this twisted labyrinth, ending in nowhere. He does not seem confounded by its impossibility or at all paralyzed by doubt. Belief in one of Reston's greatest strength. He has an almost animal-like ability to accept the world as it comes at him. Perhaps one overcast morning in hyperband India. He had stood rooted on the ground of 1 second too long because he did not really believe an electrical pole had fallen and ugly lash of death was now whipping toward him. Reston had paid a high price for that disbelief. He would never walk upstairs again, and he would never fuck. At least he would also never doubt again. Jesus. Oh, Jesus. Oh, Jesus. All the images Ned Davison finds during this period are beautifully concise. Every angle he chooses describes the agony of the wait, whether to the nonsense coming over the radio or Karen watching them from the foyer for the first time, smoking a cigarette inside the house. Even the occasional shot of Davison himself pacing around the living room communicates the impatience he feels over being denied this extraordinary opportunity. He has done his best to keep from resenting Karen, but clearly feels it just the same. Not once are they shown talking together. For that matter, not once are they shown in the same frame together. Eventually, the entire segment becomes a composition of strain. Jump cuts increase, people stop speaking to each other, a single shot never includes more than one person. Everything seems to be on the verge of breaking apart, whether between Davison and Karen, the family as a whole, or even the expedition itself. On the seventh day, there is still no sign of the team. By the seventh night, Reston begins to fear the worst, and then in the early AM hours of the eighth day, everyone hears the worst. The radio remains an incomprehensible buzz of static, but from somewhere in the house, raising up like some strange black oil, there comes a faint knocking. Chad and Daisy actually detect it first, but by the time they reach their parents' bedroom, Karen is already up in the light, is already up with the light on, listening intently to this new disturbance. It sounds exactly like someone rapping his knuckles against the wall. 3 quick knocks, followed by 3 slow knocks, followed by 3 more quick knocks, over and over again. Despite a rapid search of the upstairs and downstairs, no one can locate the source, even though every room resonates with the distress signal. Then Tom presses his ear against the living room wall. Bro, don't ask me how, but it's coming from in there. In fact, for a second, it sounded like it was right on the other side. Okay. Now there's a little break off here into another tangent of the story. So there's something weird going on here, as if Zamboni can't quite make up his mind whether this is all an exploration, i.e., base camp, or a war command post. Fuck was still scratched in above it, as I've been doing my best to incorporate most of these amendments. I didn't think it fair to suddenly exclude this one, even if it did mean a pretty radical shift in tone. By now, you've probably noticed that except when safely contained by quotes, Zamboni always steers clear of such questionable four-lettered language. This insistence in particular beneath all that cool proves that beneath all that cool pseudo academic hogwash lurked a very passionate man who knew how important it was to say fuck now and say it loud too. Relish its symbolic sweetness, its impregnant pride. A great American epic word really starting at the lower lip, often the very front of the lower lip, before racing all the way to the back of the throat. where it finishes with the great blast, the concussive force of the K catching up, then with the hush of the F already on its way, thus loading it with plenty of offense and edge and certainly ambiguity. Fuck. A great by the door strap prayer or a curse, if you prefer, depending on how you look at it or use it, suited perfectly for hurling at the skies or at the world, or sometime, if said just right, for uttering with even love and fire. And the woman beside you melts inside herself, immersed in all that word heat. Holy fuck. What was all that about? Love and fire. Word heat. Who the hell was thinking up this shit? maybe Zamboni just wrote fuck because he wasn't saying fuck before when he could fuck, and now he was weighted in that hole. Hang on a second. Excuse me. Here we are. Zamboni just wrote fuck because he wasn't saying fuck before when he could fuck, and now he waited in the hole on Whitney. He wished he would have lived a little differently. Or then again, maybe he just needed a word strong enough to push back his doubts, a word strong enough to obliterate, at least temporarily, the certain vision of his own death, defiantly necessary for those times when he was working. He was around the courtyard, trying to stretch his limbs, keep his heart pumping. A few remaining cats still rumping up against his withered legs, reminding him of the years he missed. The old color, the old light, the perfect occasion. If you ask me to say fuck, though if he did say it, no one there ever heard him. Of course, fuck you. You may have a better idea. I went ahead and paged Thumper again. Again, she didn't call me back. Then this morning, I discovered a message on my machine. It startled me. I couldn't remember hearing the phone ring. Turned out some girl named Ashley wanted to see me, but I had no idea who she was. When I finally rolled into the shop, I was a good 3 hours late. My boss flew off the handle, put me on probation, said I was an ass hair away from getting fired. And no, he didn't care anymore how well I made needles. Unfortunately, I'm not too hopeful about improving my punctuality. Oh, goodness. Uh, you wouldn't believe how much harder it's getting for me to just leave my studio. It's really sad. In fact, these days, the only thing that gets me outside is when I say fuck, 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 fuck you, fuck me, fuck this, fuck, fuck, fuck. Wait, this is pretty bitter, but I've said the same thing myself more than a few times. In fact, the word helped me make it through those months in Alaska, maybe even got me there to begin with. The woman at the agency had to have known I wasn't close to 16, more like 13, going on 33, but she approved my application anyway. I like to imagine she was thinking to herself, boy, does this kid look young. And then, because she was tired or really didn't care of because my tooth was split and I looked mean, she answered herself with so, and went ahead and secured my place at the canning factory. Those were the days, let me tell you. Obscene 12-hour days, cradled in the arms of a stupefying beauty. Tents on the beach, out there on the home or split, making me, not to mention the rest of us, ornery. What the fuck? Nothing ever compared to it again either. An awful juxtaposition of fetish bones and canned grime and the stench of too many acting lives and rigged fingers set against the unreachable or even present beyond, the life taking wind, more pure than ever glacier water. And just as some water is too cold to drink, that air was almost too bright to breathe. What the fuck? Where the fuck is this going off to? Okay. Raking in over thousands teeth, range of pines, while bald eagles soared the days away like gods, even if they scavenged the mornings like rats, hopping around on gut-wet docks, with the sea at their backs, always calling out like the blue-blacked taste of something more. Nothing about the job itself could have kept you there. Hour upon hour, bent to the bench, steaming over the dead, gouging for the halibut cheeks, slaps of the salmon, enduring countless mosquito bites, even bee stings, my strange fortune, and always in the ruin of so many curses from the Filipinos, the white trash, the blacks, the Haitians, the low grade crumbling, which is the business of canning. The wage was good, but it was sure hell wasn't enough to lock you down. Not after 1 week, let alone 2 weeks, let alone 3 months of the same mind numbing, gut heaving shit. You had to find something else. For me, it was the word so. And I learned it hard way. I learned it the hard way. In fact, right at the very start of the summer, I'd been invited out to the fishing boat, a real wreck of a thing, but supposedly as seaworthy as they get. Well, we hadn't been gone for more than a few hours when a storm suddenly came up, splitting the seams and filled the hull with water. The pumps worked fine, but only for about 10 minutes, tops. The Coast Guard came to the rescue, but they took an hour to reach us, at the very least. By then, the boat had already sunk. Fortunately, we had a life raft to cower in, and almost everyone survived. Almost. One guy didn't. An old Haitian, at least 16 years old. He was a friend too, or at least on his way to becoming a friend. Some line had gotten tangled around his ankle, and he was dragged down with the wreck. Even when his head went under, we could all hear him scream, even though I know we couldn't. Back on shore, everyone was pretty messed up, but the owner, captain, was by far the worst off. He ended up drunk for a week, though the only thing he ever said was, "So? The boat's gone, so? Your mate's dead, so? Hey, at least you're alive, so?" An awful word, but it does harden you. It hardened me. Somehow, though I don't remember exactly how, I ended up telling my boss a little about that summer. Even Thumper turned in. This was, in fact, by the time I finished. Since the days were almost over, anyway, and we were locking up, she let me walk her out. "You're all right, Johnny," she said, in the way that actually made me feel all right. That's cute. At least for a little while. We kept talking and walking a little longer, and then on a whim, I decided to get some Thai food at a small place on the north side of Sunset. She's saying, "Are you hungry?" Me using the word starving, her insisting we get a quick bite. Even if I hadn't been starving, I would have eaten the world just to be with her. Everything about her shimmered. Just watching her drink a glass of water, the way she'd crush an ice cube between her teeth, made me go a little crazy. Even the way her hands held the glass, and she has beautiful hands, launched me into all kinds of imaginings, which I really didn't have time for because the moment we sat down, she started telling me about some new guy she was seeing, a trainer or something for a cadre of wannabes, never has been boxers. Apparently, he could make her come harder than she had in years. Jesus. I suppose that might have made me feel bad, but it didn't. One of the reasons I like Thumper is because she's so open and uninhabited. Uninhibited. I mean, uninhabited about everything. Maybe I've said that already. Doesn't matter. Where she's concerned, I'm happy to repeat myself. It takes more than just being good, she told me. Don't get me wrong. I love oral sex, especially if the guy knows what he's doing. Though, if you treat my clit like a doorbell, the door's not going to open. She crushed another cube of ice. Recently, though, it's like I need to be thinking something really different and out there to get me crazy. For a while, money made me wet. I'm older now. Anyway, this guy said he was going to slap my ass, and I said, sure. For whatever reason, I hadn't done that before. You done it? She didn't wait for my answer. So he got behind me and he got a nice cock, and I loved the sound of his thighs, like when they slap against my ass. But it wasn't going to make me come, even with me touching myself. That's when he smacked me. I could hardly feel it the first time. He was being kind of timid, so I told him to do it harder. Boy, maybe I'm nuts. I don't know, but he whacked me hard the next time, and I got started to go off. Told him do it again, and each time I got worked. Finally, when I did come, I came really, and she held out the really hard. Saw in the mirror later I had a handprint right on my ass cheek. I guess you could say these days I like handprints. He said his palm stung. She laughed over that one. When our food arrived, I began telling her about Clara English, another story altogether. Christina and Amber, Carrie, Lucy, and even the Ashley I have no clue about, which also made her laugh. That's when I decided not to bring up my unwritten pages. I didn't want her to get all pretty with her, even though secretly I did want to know why she never called me back. Instead, I made a plan to stick exclusively to the subject of sex, flirt with her that way, make up some insane stories, maybe even elaborate on the Alaska thing, make her laugh some more. All of which was fine and good until, for some reason, out of the blue, I changed the plan and started to tell her about Zamboni, the trunk, and my crazy attacks. She stopped laughing. She stopped crushing ice. She just listened to me for a half hour, an hour. I don't know how long. Oh, God. A long time. And the more I talked, the more I felt some of the pain and pang inside me ease up a notch. In retrospect, it was pretty weird. I mean, there I was wandering into all this personal stuff. I wasn't even sharing most of it with her either. I mean, not as much as I've been putting down here. That's for sure. Okay, well, there's just too much of it anyway. Always running parallel. That was the right word. To the old man in his book, briefly appearing, maybe even intruding, then disappearing again. Something pale, sometimes bleeding, sometimes rough, something textureless, frequently angry, frightened, sorry, fragile, or desperate, communicated in moments of motion, smell, and sound, more often than not in skewed grammar. Oh, fuck. Oh, oopsie daisy, oopsie daisy. Hello, can I call you back in 10 minutes, please?
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you, thank you. Okay. Okay. Um, where were we? Excuse me. There's too much of it anyway, always running parallels. Is that the right word? To the old man and his book, briefly appearing, maybe even intruding, then disappearing again, sometimes pale, sometimes bleeding, sometimes rough, sometimes textureless, frequently angry, frightened, sorry, fragile, or desperate, communicated in moments of motion, smell, and sound. More often than not, in skewed grammar, a mad rush broken up by etiquette, recollections, another type of signal, I suppose. Once stitched into the simplest cries for help, flung high above the rust and circling kites, and radioed when the Gulf waters of Alaska finally swept over and buried the deck for good. Come here, Dots. Or ever carried to this stranger place where lectures, let alone visits, never registered, swallowed whole by echoless in the German honeymoon of a whispered word, taken, lost, gone, until there's nothing left to examine there either, let alone explore, all of which fractured in my head, even if it was hardly present in the words I spoke, though at the very least these painful remnants were made more bearable in the presence of Thumper. At one point, I managed to get past all those private images and just glanced at her eyes. She wasn't looking around at people or fixing on silverware or attacking some wandering noodle dangling off her plate. She was just looking straight at me and without any malice either. She was wide open, taking in everything I told her without judgment, just listening to the way I phrased it all, listening to how I felt. And that's when something really painful tore through me, like some old powerful root, the kind you see in moments, something splitting apart chunks of granite tiles in big and small homes. Only instead of granite, this thing was splintering me apart. My chest hurt and I felt funny all over, having no idea what it was. This root or the feeling, until I suddenly realized I was going to start sobbing. Now, I haven't cried since I was 12, so I had no intention of starting at 25, especially in some fucking Thai restaurant. So I swallowed up. I killed it. I changed the subject. A little while later, when I said goodnight, Thumper gave me a big sweet hug, almost as if to say she knew I'd just been. Don't worry so much. You're still young. You'll be fine. And then, as she put her Jeep into gear, she smiled. Come down and see me at work sometime. If you want my opinion, you just need to get out of the house. That's good. That's good. I love the way girls put that stuff into perspective. It's just like, yeah, you chill the fuck out, bro. Or so. Okay, so that's the end of the chapter? No, I don't believe so. Okay, we'll have to pick that up, but we did end the chapter because we gotta call it good there. Yes, that's correct. Ta-da! There you go. Right. It's a big bad world out there, right? Time to get out there and get after it. God bless you. Keep rocking what you got. Keep doing what you do because you do it so well. And yeah, man. To be continued.